are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We got some pretty
Good.
mild weather, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, yep, I'm loving it. I hear ya. Although I did like it better a couple of weeks ago, but I'll take this. This is fine.
Yeah, I mean 30 degrees. I mean, usually what we have is we have a um an onslaught of snow. And a couple weeks ago I was all walking around the farm. We got like a farm a couple blocks away from us, and it's a historical site. And I get to walk around there. I might walk around there maybe 2 3 times, and it was almost 50 degrees.
I know, isn't that crazy? And it was January.
Yeah, they talk about global warming. I don't know, they just might be telling the truth, but I'll take it.
Sorry about that. I muted because I
Oh.
had to cough and I didn't want to do it in your ear. Um, I will take it also. I am not going to complain. So,
Yeah.
thank you for dialing into the call. I appreciate it. I did want to talk with you because you had expressed an interest in an origination and acquisition application support analyst position. Could
Yes,
that
ma'am.
title be any longer?
That is a very long title. That is a very long title. It's it'd be you could probably compare it to super catalytic, but
Yeah, exactly. Hold on one second. I need to cough again.
oh, no problem.
Sorry about that. My darn allergies will not cut me a break.
Oh, so they're starting with you early.
No, no, they just never end. They're just always ongoing. So I have allergies all year round.
Oh, that's
Um,
crazy. That's
yeah,
terrible. That's
yeah.
terrible.
Well, I guess it could be worse. I mean, it's just coughing. It's not the itchy eyes and everything else that allergies brings
Oh, you
on.
got it
So,
light then. See, I got all the worst symptoms, and they typically happen when the
oh,
ragweed happens in the summertime, and surprisingly, it has happened to me in the winter. And it could have been
oh
maybe the
no.
HVAC. So yeah, we just cleaned out the vents, but no, it's terrible. It's like I'd rather just be sick because then
Yeah,
I could get doctor up. And but yeah, I'm telling you, allergies
exactly.
is a horrible thing, especially in Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I just wanted to talk with you about your background and experience to see how it fits in with this position. So I have a number of questions I'd like to go through with you, but before I start with all of my questions, I wanted to see if you felt like you had a good understanding of what the position is all about, or if you had any questions I could answer for you.
Oh well, to my understanding, it's a application support analyst position, uh, where we're supporting. To my knowledge, it would be some mortgage software. That
Mm-hmm.
software as a service for your clients.
Mm.
Um, I do have some questions about in terms of is there any specific software that we have to support, so to say,
Yeah,
like
you know what?
Windows and back end stuff like that.
Let me pull up my notes to see if I have that information. And it's really supporting the software from a client perspective, but the client is internal.
Okay,
It's
okay,
not external clients. So it's helping employees that are trying to access systems and maybe they're having difficulties with a particular system or it's not working quite as it should be.
okay,
So they would create a ticket and then it would, then this position would be the all knowing, basically, to be able to troubleshoot and help to resolve the issue. Maybe it's a situation that it's a larger issue that would impact more than just this particular person. And so it might be having to work with the vendor. But yeah, that's what it's all about. And some of the applications are Laura Mac, Mortgage Flex, DocuTech, um, PredCheck, CoreLogic, things like that. Are those any
I
applications that you've heard of?
I have heard of CoreLogic. I mainly come from the infrastructure standpoint, far as like Citrix and more so, like a lot of the ticketing systems and things of that nature. But I have
Mhm.
heard of CoreLogic, but I haven't heard of the other ones too much.
Okay. Okay. And so now, what are your thoughts about supporting more of those mortgage-based applications versus what you have supported?
Well, I have experience in terms of mortgage and banking and things of that nature. I do have some experience with it, such as when I was working at Wells Fargo doing API support. We supported the back end of a lot of those applications, so I do have some experience in that. Um, Primarily, a lot of the support will be developers, so it will be internal and it will be some external customers as well.
Okay.
And there, what we would do is, let's say you had some PCI compliance, or you wanted to make a very large mortgage payment, or any, it could be from PayPal, it could be from any of these financial institutions.
Mhm.
And what we would do is we would log a ticket with Jira. Sometimes we would write a story based upon the issue at hand, and we would follow a knowledge base. And then we would also do a little bit of monitoring with Splunk and digging down into the logs, and rectifying the situation. We would work with the onboarding team, we would work with implementation, treasury, and things of that nature.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Um, so now, do you have any other questions about the position based on what you've read and what I've shared with you?
Is Yes, is it a, would you say it's a high call volume, or uh do you get time to kind of dig into the issues?
I'm going to guess you get time to dig into some of the issues, and here's why I say that. Excuse me. So, we are a fairly small company. We have about 146 employees in our company. Those people are spread across the U.S. About 50% of the staff is across the U.S. The other 50% are in the Minneapolis area. And then on top of that, we have our parent company. And they're about 45 employees. I don't know how much those people are using the application, so I don't know if they would be putting in many tickets. But based on what based on what the size of our company, I would guess that you would have time to dig into some of the issues, but I would also recommend saving that question for a follow-up conversation with the hiring manager, as she's the one, I'm sorry, he is the one that is going through and addressing some of those right now. Um, and uh, so he's going to have a better idea of whether how much time you're going to have to dig into each issue, each ticket, to try to figure that out.
Okay. And then I saw something about SQL and coding. Do you know about
Mhm.
how much you would have to know about that?
I don't know. I do know that they would like to have somebody that's got that kind of experience. Do you have a lot of experience in that, or no, or
No,
do
no.
you not have any?
Yeah, I don't really have much experience with SQL, or
Okay.
coding for that matter.
Okay. And I want to say that I thought on the job description that that was a plus. Let me
Oh,
see
yeah,
here.
preferred. Yeah, they said it was preferred SQL,
Yeah,
VBA, T
yeah, there
SQL.
you go. Yeah. So if it's just a plus, I mean, it's not being required.
Okay, it's probably something I could learn.
So when you say with SQL you don't have much experience, does that mean you don't have any experience or
Yeah, I
minimal?
don't. Yeah, I like, if you were to ask me to write a SQL query, I wouldn't know. It would be something that I would have to learn.
Okay, got it. And what about, you mentioned Jira? You have experience with Jira,
I do.
right?
We use Jira both at Wells Fargo, and we used it as well at Optum. You know, um, that contract ended on January 31st,
Okay,
and we used ServiceNow there. We used Jira because we had to work with a lot of the engineers to recreate and reproduce issues, and so we would write user stories.
okay,
Jira, when I was at Wells Fargo, was pretty much the primary ticketing system when it came to inbound support. We would log
okay,
tickets when we got front end calls. We would be in the queue a good majority of the day, and then the other days I would be doing the management of the tickets. Um, and you might get anywhere between 2 to 5 tickets per day, depending upon who the customer is.
And sometimes that ticket might go to implementation, where you just pretty much write a user story of what the customer wants, and then we would send that over to onboarding or either implementation.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And you mentioned, I heard you say VBA, but I didn't catch. Do you have experience with VBA?
I
VBA?
do not. I do not.
Okay. Got it. All right. Any other questions I can answer for you before I jump into all of the rest of my questions?
I think that's all I have in regard
Okay.
to the
If you
position.
think of anything, feel free to ask at any time, okay?
Okay, absolutely.
And just to give you a history of what our company does, I don't know if you had an opportunity to take a look at our website, but we are a mortgage company. We work exclusively in the non qualified mortgage or non agency space. So any mortgages that Fannie or Freddie would not, that they wouldn't qualify for a Fannie or Freddie mortgage, are ones that we would look into or we would consider. So we started in 2015 as a correspondent lender, and what we do is we purchase closed mortgages from other mortgage companies. The mortgages have to meet all of our requirements. So in order for us to determine if they do, we have to redo everything. We have to re-underwrite, reprocess, re-everything.
Oh,
Once
okay.
we've determined that we can purchase those mortgages, then we will securitize them and turn them into investments. Along with that, we do provide tools to other mortgage companies so that they can sell these types of mortgages that we will be able to purchase in the future. So that's one side of the business. Now we also have a wholesale division, and we're in that wholesale division that we started up about 2 years ago. We work with brokers who are actually working with borrowers that need to get a mortgage. So we don't necessarily work directly with the borrower; the broker does, but we work with the broker, and then. When the broker brings a mortgage to us, we then go through the process to determine if it is uh, in our best interest to provide that mortgage. So we underwrite, we process, we do all of that stuff as well, and then provide the backing for that mortgage if it again meets our our requirements. And again, these are all mortgages that are on the non QM and non agency side as well. Does
Oh,
that
okay.
all make sense?
Yeah, it does. I actually was taking a look. There was a lot of verbiage that I wasn't truthfully familiar with, but I was looking at some of the. I think it's a prime. Well, I closed the window, but I was jotting down some notes. You had all types of different prime lending options, and
Yep.
I was looking at some of the mortgages anywhere, looking at people with lower credit from I think 600 to something, and it said something anywhere
Yep.
between $200,000 to I think it was $4 million.
Yep. Yep. There's a variety of different reasons why people wouldn't qualify for a conventional mortgage with Freddie or Fannie, um, which is why we went into the business in this space specifically because we could see that there was a need for it. And so, yeah, there's quite a few different kinds of reasons and types of products that we offer just to help these kinds of borrowers.
How are you guys able? It's a real quick question. How are you guys able to carve into that lane? That sounds like that would be a complicated, lane to get into.
Well, we went into it in 2015 when it wasn't, it wasn't huge. I mean, there were other people that were in the industry or were in that area, but we knew enough about it to be able to get step into it and be successful. And actually, even as far as 2.5 years ago, when I started with the company and I did a little research to see who our competitors were, I saw that we actually came up as number 10 in the country for of top lenders for in this space, which is pretty impressive when you consider we started in 2015. So that really was only about 6 years that we had been into business, and we were already number 10. So I think our leadership team just really knows and understands the industry and that and non-qualified mortgage space, and so we've been very successful ever since starting.
Wow, that's quite a success story.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else that you can think of that you might be wondering?
Um, how big is the team?
So this particular team is really small. It right now consists of the manager. And so
Oh,
we're
okay.
adding two people onto the team to fill this role just because we are it's enough and probably too much for the one person to be handling now, especially when we are adding on more applications. So um, or more systems. So the team is really small. It will consist of the three people. It is part of another team, though, and that team itself is, I want to say, 10 to 15 people.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
that's other positions such as UAT testing, um, and other positions. So it's not just the origination, acquisition, application support role.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see. I see. I
Okay.
see. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump into my questions, but if you think of anything while we're going through mine, feel free to ask at any time, okay?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So now, Derek, how did you hear about this position?
You know, I was combing around on Indeed.com.
Okay.
That's how I found it. I find most positions it seems like to be on Indeed.
Okay. And what was it that made you interested in this particular position?
Well, I was looking for positions that kind of encompassed, a lot of my recent experience, doing, application support, business system analyst, if you will. And when I seen this position, I seen that a lot of the duties and experience kind of lined up with a lot of the experiences that I've had within the past 2 years. And so I said,
Okay.
well, I would like to learn more about this company, and so I applied.
Got it. And so now, why are you looking for a position?
Well, right now, the recent position that I was in at Optum, um, that contract was supposed to had went on for maybe another 6 months, but weeks ago we were told that January 31st was going to be um, our last day. They kind of sprung up on us. They were doing some kind of global consolidation or something, and I guess the entire team got laid off. We were part of an entire API health records team. We were supporting uh, pretty much, if you ever heard of MyChart,
Mm-hmm.
Optum
Yeah.
Healthcare was they bought a company out, and so they were going to be the rival of MyChart. And so I didn't want to not be working, so I just went ahead and just took a help desk contract. So I've been working that second shift.
Got it. Got it. And so the contract that you're doing, um, do you plan on leaving that position once you find another opportunity?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the entire. You know, Even when I was at Optum, I was looking for permanent work. They were saying earlier on, because we went through Optum, and then there's another managed service company called Persistent. If you ever
Okay.
heard of TATA or TCS, which is uh, India's equivalency to Cargill. Um,
Okay.
Persistent is also a large managed service company based in India, and they had this contract with Optum, and they have like other contracts like Microsoft and things of that nature. So we were all hoping to get hired on. They didn't hire anybody on. They pretty much
Okay.
just wiped out the whole team. And so, you know, I had an intention on, either, you know, becoming a permanent employee of the managed service provider, or, finding permanent work. So I was looking for permanent work.
Okay. Got it. And so what makes you most qualified for this position?
Well, I would say that I got, several years in the financial industry. Um, I have 2 years supporting API and Splunk. Um, I have over 3 years supporting Citrix administration. Uh, and also, I had been a technical instructor for 7 years, so I know how to train people. I was one of the people that was hired to design a curriculum for adults to get them trained and certified in Microsoft certifications. And from 2016 on to September 2017, I successfully launched two classes, one with Azure Fundamentals and the other one for network fundamentals. And I got over 200 people certified and employed in the IT
Wow.
space. And so, um, before that, a lot of my background kind of came as an EUC analyst or doing Windows 7 migrations. Earlier on in my career, I started off doing all of my Windows 7 migrations in the Twin Cities, our Department of Urban Development, Travelers Insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Menco Products, which was a manufacturing site. That was my first Windows 7 migration. My final and last one was being a Windows 7 team lead at AIG. So I have a wide uh, spectrum, I would say, from the insurance to working in the financial sector to working in the manufacturing sector, the public and nonprofit sector as well.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So, how do you prioritize your work?
Well, typically, a lot of times, for example, you might have what they call, we use severity ones, twos, and threes. Um, we kind of operated in kind of having scrum meetings every day to prioritize tickets. We worked in an agile environment, so we'll have meetings every day. In the past two positions that I had, and with the ticketing system, we would, depending upon if an entire site went down or if an entire customer went down, that might be a severity too. Uh, if you just have somebody that wants a new change to the system, for example, when I was working as a Salesforce admin at Hiawatha Academies, that's part of um, my public work at the school system. I was the Salesforce database admin, so there might be a teacher or a principal or somebody that might want uh, they might want like a new feature or an enhancement. Um, that might be on a lower priority than the Infinite Campus migration.
Mhm.
Tableau,
Mhm.
Infinite Campus, and Salesforce kind of all bonded in together. They also had two other pieces of software that was added onto the Salesforce instance. So if somebody just says, "Well, I just want something to basically enter data in easier," and it's just one person, of course that will be a lower priority than if we're working on making sure that the grading from the students and that the lunch and that uh the salary verifications of the parents of the household and things of that nature, that would not be a priority over something of that large. So that's pretty much how I prioritize my work.
Got
Is
it.
this an issue that it affects one person? Does it affect 10, 15? Is it on the site? uh, is there an issue with the network? If there's an issue with the network, that could be company wide. Is it an issue with the firewall? uh, so that's pretty much how I prioritize the work.
Got it. I'm just jotting some notes, so bear with me.
Oh, no problem.
And so, what are some of the different areas of information technologies that you have experience in, and how long have you worked in those areas?
Well, I started off my career in I would say 2008. uh I worked at a nonprofit called Urban Ventures, which was off of Fourth Avenue in South Minneapolis, and they were building the Colin Powell School. And with the school, it was all connected to the Crystal Lake Jesuit High School. So Colin Powell, he came in town, he seen the building after a while. I was part of actually installing a lot of the routers and the switches and the cabling, and that was my first introduction as an internship. I worked 1 year learning Active Directory, learning how to image computers with Norton Ghost. After that, I worked at Robert Half. That was my first corporate enterprise uh, contract, and I was doing pretty much the same thing in imaging as a new hire coordinator. So I would install printers. I would go out to Vadnais Heights and do printer support and desktop support and things of that nature. And the next couple of years, as I was saying earlier, that I started to work on a lot of the Windows 7 migrations at pretty much all the biggest insurance firms in the Twin Cities. And so when I became a Windows 7 migration lead at AIG, I worked out there. Um, I had about two or three people that were reporting to me. I would be working with the packaging engineers, system administrators, a lot of the product owners, to making sure that they have certification among the software. Some of that software had to stay on XP and had to be virtualized. And some of that software, they got that certified to be able to migrate those users to Windows 7. And from there,
Okay.
I worked on as an EUC analyst. And that was pretty much doing Vault migration and desktop support for TCS, which is one of the largest the largest managed service companies in the world, and based in India.
Okay.
And on that contract, I worked at Boston Scientific in Cargill. And then after that, I became a Citrix administrator. And during that same time as a Citrix admin on the weekends and during and after work, I would go over to the park boards and I would be rolling up this technical instruction program that hired adults and got them certified in Microsoft. So uh, I would say that I have a pretty wide variety of technical ability.
It sounds like it, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now, do you have any experience supporting mortgage origination and acquisition systems?
I do not. I do not.
Okay. And now, at Optum, in your current position that you started in August, tell me what day to day is like for you in that role.
Well, typically what we would do is, we would have ServiceNow. The first thing, initially, I was hired on to be team lead. So what I was told I was supposed to do was run reports and just kind of divvy out the tickets. So initially,
Hmm.
that was kind of my position. I started in August, and I kind of did that for the next 3 months. But then they had a big manager change, and so they kind of just changed all the managers, and a lot of people got let go, and they hired more people internally from the persistent MSP I spoke about, and my job went more to day-to-day support. So, for example, we would focus really on we would kind of be what they call tier 3. So we would
Okay.
support tier 1 and tier 2, in the instance that, let's say, somebody has a password reset or they're not able to get into their my chart to see their vitals. They might do a password reset. They might give them some new permissions. If that doesn't work, they send that to level 2. If level 2 works on it, then they send it to us. So what I would do is I would log into Postman and Insomnia. Those are API tools, and I would look on the back end and see what are they missing. A person might have what they call an MRN number. Now that's like your address. Nobody else has that address, or hopefully they
Okay.
don't. And I might have to tell another team to merge if there's a duplicate of MRN numbers. Um, there might be an instance where people are supposed to receive vaccinations, so we got to be very careful around HIPAA and everything. Um, and they can't see their vitals, so we might have to go into the back end and look at these APIs and see, is there anything missing, or is there any duplicates. um and so what we would do day to day is we would look at that back end data, and then what we would do is we couldn't change a lot of it, so we would have to create a task in ServiceNow once we identified what the problem is, and then we'd send it back to level 1 or level 2. It might be a verification of an address that can cause an actual issue. You might have a patient that has mixed up information with another patient, and that's a big no-no. That's a huge HIPAA violation, so that
Hmm.
has to be rectified. So that's what we would do day to day. And then
Okay.
we would have a scrum meeting, you know each morning, and I would just kind of assign the tickets out, and then eventually, when the new manager took over, uh, then I was kind of doing most of that break fix kind of work.
Okay.
So we were
Got
all
it.
working the service now.
Got it. And you're still there.
No, that
Oh.
contract ended January 31st.
Oh,
So
okay. So that's not the role that you took. Okay. So contract ended. You said when?
that
August
ended,
30th,
yeah, that ended January 31st.
January 31st.
Yeah, so they kind of let us know maybe a couple weeks in advance. I
Yeah.
had a sneaky suspicion that it could, but
Did I lose you?
no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I heard you. Um, I heard it. You stopped after you had a sneaking suspicion
Yeah,
that I thought you were continuing to talk, and I
yeah,
lost you.
yeah. I had a sneaky suspicion that that it could be ending earlier.
Got it. And so now you said you took a job overnight. Um, so that you wouldn't have a lapse in
Right.
employment. So
Yeah.
what is that role that you're doing?
It's just help desk. It's just resetting passwords, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I'm just catching up on a couple of notes, so bear with me. But it's still with Optum.
No, no, that one is with it's going through Randstad. So
Oh,
they
it
have
is.
their
Okay.
own internal IT companies. Uh, I'd probably be all day naming all the companies that they support internally, but it's pretty much like a all for one, like a buffet, you know.
Got it. So are you doing like tier 1 level support or?
It's like tier one. They say it's tier two, but to me, it's tier one. It's like password resets. We might have to do. We might have to reboot some VDI machines and things of that nature. So I guess that would be tier two.
Okay. And then prior to all of that, you were at Wells Fargo, and
Right.
that was just a contract. How long was that contract?
That contract went from, was that December 2021?
Oh yeah, December 2021 to April of 2023.
Yeah.
And you said you were supporting the back end of a lot of mortgage applications.
It was pretty much anything that touched ACH, PCI, anything that touched money, pretty much. Uh, you might have an application, and it's most more so for the developers.
Okay.
If the developer wants to hook up their API system to ours to send money, um, you might wire $20 million or something like that. Wells
I would
Fargo would
like to
have
be
their.
able to do that.
You say what now?
I would like to be able to wire $20 million somewhere.
Oh, it would be great. I seen some crazy stuff. I seen some crazy numbers. I was like,
I bet you have.
yeah, I've never seen money like that. And then and some stuff I'd be like, I'd be wondering if some of this stuff a house or some of it's and you don't really see what it is.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just see you just see how much the money is, and I'm just like, oh man, and they just sending it over like it's hotcakes, just like I'm passing you a hot dog. I mean, they just send it. They're just so nonchalant about it. I mean, it's
Isn't
and
that crazy?
yeah, and they're looking at it, and I guess one guy from I won't say the company, but one guy said, "Oh well, yeah, we're just gonna build. We're thinking about it. They didn't even determine that they're gonna do it. Oh, we're thinking about building this, and it's like 150, and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
150. And it's and you can see those numbers a lot of times with implementation. With Jira, they were getting ready to move into ServiceNow, and they had a worse system before I had got there. So
Okay.
some of that stuff was in ServiceNow. Like sometimes I would work on the weekends where if an API goes down, it's pretty much an all hands on deck. And for some reason it would always go down on the weekend. I guess
Of
it's because it's
course.
busy. So
Just
you
like your furnace goes out in the middle of winter on the coldest night
yeah, it gets
night
picks
on a weekend.
it picks the worst day. It's like, okay, yeah,
That's
people are at the
right.
Mall of America. Like, yeah, for example, the Mall of America, they might be a client or something like that. And they got 1,000 stores up in there. So, you have things such as ACH payments. Then you might have
Mhm.
version one, version two. Then you have PCI, or you have a whole bunch of different APIs that they can support to their products. So
Mhm.
implementation, um, basically, once a customer signs on, they would go through implementation and onboarding. It would be about maybe 10 or 15, 20, 30 people working on this whole process on getting them onboarded. And
Okay.
then we would work with there's a couple other apps I didn't put in my resume, like Apogee. That might be a permission that they may need. So I might give them a few permissions if they don't have it, and sometimes I'd have to go to onboarding and they would have to do it. And
Mhm.
most of the support on our end would come from saying, hey, um, this is not sending, or there's an issue, um, we can't send it, or we can't get the APIs to talk to each other. So we could do
Mhm.
what they call a call. So the call has to have primarily, a lot of developers would use Python. That's a
Okay.
common thing.
Yep.
So
Yep.
in order to send a call, you have to have this and this in there, and they just might be missing just one piece. So we would
Okay.
send them the documentation, or a lot of times, of course, you would have to have security. So we would support their public key infrastructure to a certain extent. If they need to have a certificate, we could issue them that. Now, we're not going to issue them the private one, and we tell them don't lose it,
Okay.
but we'll issue them. We'll work with onboarding to uh, support them to a certain extent with their certificates, because you got to have these certificates in place to even be able to make those calls.
Right. Right. Nope, that
So
makes sense.
that's another thing I forgot that we supported as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess in that measure, um, that would be a mortgage application on the back end. I would suppose.
Okay. All right. Understandable. And now, why did you leave Wells Fargo? It was a contract. So did the contract end, or what happened there?
It did end.
Okay.
Um, in this case, they have a rule over there where
Yep.
you can't stay I don't know if it's like a financial thing where you can't stay beyond a certain amount of time, and um I think you have to have a 6-month cool off period, because there was a couple
Yep.
guys in there that had been around there for years, and
Mm-hmm.
they always advise us to apply internally and things of that nature. So um they they had to end it,
Okay.
from what I've been told. So
Sure, understandable. Yeah, I've heard of that before. I see you were at Ameriprise from 2016 to 2019. I was at Ameriprise at that time as a recruiter, so I'm familiar. They had the same rule that you could only contract for a certain length of time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
interesting. So now, I'm assuming then, as far as your experience in mortgage, you're not really familiar with the types of mortgages. So you are not familiar, or you haven't worked with non-qualified mortgages, or a
No,
correspondent,
no,
or
I have not.
wholesale. Okay, got it. And then that makes sense. I'm not too worried about that. And then, have you been working with Microsoft products for a while?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how
I mean,
long have you worked with Microsoft?
oh, I've worked with Microsoft since 2008. In fact, that class that I ran was completely Microsoft certification for the Microsoft Technology Associate Cert, the network fundamentals, and then I helped design a class for Microsoft Azure fundamentals as well in September of 2022, and that was pretty much the ending of my tech training. Um, I let there was a student in my class. She wanted to take the wheel. She was interested in instructing, and I felt like I did my 7 years for the community. I got a bunch of people, a bunch of money, and I said, well, I did my job. So, and I was tired. It's one of them things where, you're bringing in recruiters with tech systems and Robert Half and Splunk, and doing PF Sense firewall presentations,
Yep.
uh, and all of that. And I was bringing people out. We got a connection to some folks out there in Microsoft in Edina at the data center. And I brought one group out there, and they were showing us the data center. And then the next time they said, well, we bring you guys here once again, there ain't gonna be no data center. It's all gonna
Oh,
be in the
wow.
cloud. And we brought them
Sure.
um, back the second time and showed them that. So we were doing things like field trips, and then hooking people up with internships at the park board and things of that nature. So I would say I have a pretty good understanding on Microsoft product.
Understandable. And so now, have you had to use Excel? What do you use Excel for?
Oh, I use Excel just really to put in student information. When it comes to being advanced in Excel, I will be very honest with you. I am absolutely not. Um, I know the very very basics of Excel. Like
Okay.
I can put some numbers in, and then I can kind of highlight it and tell you the sum. But when it comes to writing macros and things of that nature, I'm not familiar with that very much.
So it sounds like you can do some basic formulas.
I don't even think it's a formula. I mean, I think I know how. I think I can know how to do it, but I don't. I never really use the formula too much. I would I would put the numbers in, and then like once I found out that I don't have to open up my calculator on my phone, I said, well, I can just put on. I said, wow, I could do this, And then I went in there and started messing with the graphs, and I said, oh, okay, I could do a little more than I thought, because
Yeah.
most IT people, they don't we support maybe the break fix. We don't really know how to like do like Tableau visualizations work with R very much, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I know how to work around. I know how to uh I think I can create a formula. I know how to delete, hide. I know how to highlight several different uh
Cells.
yeah, like cells right
Okay.
above where you're able to right click them and hide F and A and things of that nature. So I know how to do that.
Okay. All right. And so have you ever had to create VLOOKUPs or pivot tables?
That I don't know how to do. I think I know
Okay.
where they're at, but I don't know how to do.
Not a problem. All right. And so then um, this position is working on site on a hybrid schedule. Are you able to work on site 2 to 3 days a week?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. And when you weren't working on site, where would you be working? Would you be working from home?
Yeah, I have been working remotely for the last 3 years, pretty much, ever since the pandemic started.
All right. Excellent. And do you have a space in your home where you can work on private and confidential information without others having access to it?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. And what are the time zones that you're most productive in?
I'd say Central Standard. I'm kind of flexible, but I
Sure.
typically work in the Central Standard.
Okay. And what are you looking for in a new position in a new company?
Well, I'm looking for a dynamic company, a company that's growing, a company that could identify the trajectory going on. I would say anywhere between the next 7 to 10 years. Um, Looking for an ego-free environment. Um, a couple humorous people will help. Wouldn't hurt if somebody knew about Game of Thrones because I like that. I'm a big TV series fan. Even though I don't watch
Okay.
that much TV, but yeah, so I'm a big Game of Thrones guy, and
Well, I'm not sure on who is up on Game of Thrones at the company, but I could certainly hook you up with the funny people.
okay, okay, absolutely. Well, yeah,
All right.
I'm quite sure somebody has watched Wolf on Wall Street. You guys are financial. I know you guys watched that movie. You had to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now, where would you like to see yourself professionally in 5 years?
Well, I'm kind of leaning towards like the product manager role.
Okay.
Managing the product and maybe business analysis. A business analyst kind of role.
Okay. And what is your desired pay range?
I would say anywhere between I'd say the range anywhere between 75 and 87.
Okay. And if the hiring manager were interested in speaking with you, would you be able to have a video interview?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. And if they wanted you to come on site, would you be able to do that?
Yes. Yes. I could.
And your availability to start if we offered you a position.
Um, I would like to give at least 2 weeks.
And we don't have any concerns about that. It typically takes us 2 weeks to get everything pulled together, running a background check and getting technology built out. It typically takes us about 2 weeks. So I have no concerns about that at all. And then, do you have anything coming up in your schedule, say within the next 4 months, that would require you to take a longer period of time off of work, such as a fabulous vacation?
No, I don't think I have anything. It could be
Okay.
something on a weekend, but I don't think I have anything that I can think of.
All right, excellent. Well, those are all the questions that I had for you today. Did you have any other questions for me before I share next steps?
Just a few more.
Yeah,
What would you say the learning curve and the training would be for this position? And also, what could you tell me about the company culture out there in Bloomington?
sure. What the training looks like is it's going to be really getting your wrapping your arms around all of the applications that you would be supporting. So it's going to be a pretty steep learning curve just because you need to learn those applications. Um, some of it is going to be learning from the leader others will be learning, it'll be learning on the job as questions come up, and just really getting in and trying to mess around and figure out what kind of issues the people are having. So I think because of the applications and not having experience in them, it's probably going to be fairly steep. But it's again, a great question to ask at a follow-up conversation with the hiring leader, just because they're going to have a better idea of what their expectation is around timing of being up to speed with all of those. They may take an approach where it's learning a couple of them at a time, where the other person will be learning some different ones and can respond and answer to some of those, the other application questions, while the leader is still taking on some of the questions as well. So great question to ask at a follow-up conversation.
Okay, okay. I had a bunch of technical questions, but I could save those if the conversation continues.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So now, next steps, I will be sharing the information that I gathered from you today with the hiring manager. We will be reviewing all of the candidates and determining which candidates that we would like to move forward with. So I'm expecting to be able to get back in touch with you, I would say by end of the day. Today is Tuesday, right?
It
End of
is.
day Tuesday of next week, unless I know something sooner. But let's just say, in case I can't get in touch with the hiring manager until next week for our call, then let's just say I'll get back to you by the end of the day on next Tuesday. Okay?
Okay, perfect, perfect.
All right. Anything else I can answer for you?
Um, nothing that I could think of.
Okay.
I really do appreciate the
Oh, you
time.
asked about the culture.
Oh, the culture, the company culture. Yes.
Yeah, so the company culture is pretty casual, pretty fun. Uh, you know, people are really easy to get to know in the company, and so we about half of our staff works outside of the Minneapolis area, so they work remote, and then half of the staff work in the office on a hybrid schedule. So you'll see some people some days and other people other days, but very comfortable, casual. We like to celebrate together, um, gather and have potlucks quite a bit. So it's pretty fun environment, pretty casual and comfortable.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that sounds pretty good.
yeah, it is a good, it is a really good environment to be in, I think. So, all right. Well, then, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Derek. I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Have a great day. Talk to
Take
you
care.
soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Junkie going pretty boy. Junkie going pretty boy.